Hi, everybody. This is Saad for the Sad Truth. In late February, I was invited to speak at the Manning Conference in Ottawa on the topic of censorship on campus. The two other speakers were John Carpe, who is the founder of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom. Some of you might remember that one of the folks who works at the center was my guest a few months ago. And the other speaker was Jordan Peterson. So we each had about, if I remember correctly, roughly 10 minutes to speak, and then a moderator opened it up for discussion. I've been waiting for the Manning Center to release the YouTube clip of our lectures. I'm not sure exactly when they're going to be releasing them, but several people have been asking if I could share my slides and the examples that I shared at the lecture. For those of you who may not know, the main gist of my talk was to basically read verbatim with a few editorial changes. Somebody might have written TO when they meant to write TOO. But otherwise, I took verbatim quotes from emails that people have sent me, whereby it could be students, professors. In one case, it was a parent of a student, where they're sharing their desperation at things that they are seeing on campuses. And so I thought that that was a very powerful way to speak about the zeitgeist, the environment, the atmosphere, the stifling conditions under which folks are operating at so-called free universities. And so what I'm going to do is share with you, I'm going to actually share the clips and the lecture, and then eventually, I'm going to read out the lecture, if you like, right now after the end of this clip. And then once the Manning Center releases the actual lecture that happened last month, I'll be, of course, happy to upload the actual lecture on my channel. So I hope that you enjoy it. Well, I guess maybe enjoy is not the right word, because as you'll see when I read these first-person accounts, they're quite chilling. So here you go. Please share. It's important that we win this battle for freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, freedom of thought. Talk to you soon. Ciao. This is Saad for the Sad Truth. I will be reading out the actual lecture that I gave at the Manning Center. These are the actual slides that I used. And then eventually, as I said in the introductory clip, once the Manning folks release the actual lecture, I'd be happy to upload that as well. So here we go. The title of my talk, which was again held last month in Ottawa, is First-Person Accounts of the Campus Thought Police. So what are some strategies for stifling opposing opinions? Well, number one, you could kill the intellectuals if possible. That's what happens in many totalitarian and fascist regimes. You don't want anybody to be offering a counter position to the one that you are espousing, and so you kill all those who oppose you. A second strategy is to stifle them through various non-violent means if possible. And then you can also create a climate of fear where self-censorship becomes the norm. And so the thought policing and the political correctness and all the other mechanisms by which most people are now afraid to share their opinions on campuses in North America and Europe is precisely due to these types of mechanisms, right? So you don't behead people literally, but you, if you like, behead their self-confidence in speaking their positions and opinions. A picture is indeed worth 1,000 words. So this is a image that came across one of my social portal feeds. We condemn freedom of speech that hurts other people's feelings. So in this case, what's most important is that you do not offend people. And of course, not all people are equal in your desire to not offend. Some people are somehow more equal than others. For the rest of today's lecture, all I'll be doing is reading the actual testimonies that I've received. By the way, I received hundreds of these, maybe more. And at some point, maybe I need to put them all into one document. But I just sort of went through my emails and, in a few cases, other social portals. Let's say somebody might have sent me a message via private message on Facebook, and I'm just sharing, a few of, as I said, innumerable number of such cases to give you a sense of how stifled the environment is on campuses. And again, reading these, you would think that these folks are coming from North Korea and not from Canada and the United States. So here we go. This is student testimony example 1. I am a 47-year-old white male who, because of an injury, made a choice to return to school. Sadly, it looks like my path through university is going to be interrupted. In the first year, to maintain full-time status, I'm forced to take another social justice Black Lives Matter course. The challenge is students are not allowed to challenge or question the course content because that's considered disrespectful and may disrupt someone's safe space. I believe I am a respectful student with good attendance and whose marks average in the mid-80s. That said, after a few weeks of the one-sided syllabus, I'm considering dropping out of the program and leaving school entirely. This leftist academic world is a little too much for me. Now, if this were the only testimony I were providing you, you should be sufficiently concerned. I mean, here's a 47-year-old person who's returning to school who then decides that the environment is too insane for him to continue his dreams of getting a formal university education. But believe me, I've got many, many more examples where that came from. So here's student testimony example 2. Today we had a panel discussion on the Quebec City shooting with 2 historians and 2 sociologists, where I was told with solemn, morally righteous tones that there is no such thing as good and bad immigrants. My heart was racing and my teeth were clenched and grinding listening to this. Finally, despite my heart beating out of my chest, I asked the question, how do you, the panel, interpret Charlie Hebdo, the Danish cartoons, ISIS, Salman Rushdie, and the Bataclan shootings? The denial of individual responsibility and complete disregard for any value-based interpretation was off the table. I think I screwed myself because I'm pretty sure my professor is, let's say, quite suspicious of me now. I mean, again, think of how sinister that is. He's suspicious of you. Why? Because you aired up your position? I mean, it's breathtaking, right? I just feel really alone, but the thought of restoring strength, tolerance, and diversity of thought to the university really keeps me going. Today just really proved to me what I'm up against and how alone I am. What can I do? You should be having goosebumps at this point, but as I said, buckle up because there are many more examples. Student testimony 3. I'm reaching out to you in the hopes that the Godfather would be able to help direct my future research projects, since most professors and required courses I have to take seem to be run by social justice warriors feigning intellectualism. The reason I'm contacting you is because as an honors cognitive science student, part of my requirements is to complete 12 credits worth of individual research. However, because of purely political reasons, I'm apparently a violent, misogynist, racist Trump supporter. I have not only lost my job at a very prestigious behavioral neuroscience laboratory at YYY, obviously I hid the identity of the place to protect the identity of the person, but my name has been removed from the publication on research I personally conducted, and the lead researcher told me that he would never work with me ever again. This is not North Korea. This is not Yemen. This is not Mao Zedong's regime in China. This is happening in Canada and the United States. If you are not concerned about this, if you're apathetic in your response, if you presume that someone else will deal with this issue for you on your behalf or that of your children, then you are part of the problem. You're complicitous. Student testimony example 4. Help! I'm a 4th year XXX student in a 5-year teaching program. I'll be heading to YYY next year for my 1 year of teachers college. Only recently have I realized the radical left-wing messages embedded in virtually all of my classes, and I know it will only get worse at YYY. What can I do about this? How do I stand up for the truth without risking my career as an elementary school teacher? Thank you. You feel the desperation in this person's message. Now let's move on from student testimonies to those of faculty. I very much appreciate your courage to fight the cancer that is taking over American academia. People like me feel cheated in their attempt to pursue a tenure track career. It only takes a glimpse to the job offerings that the Modern Languages Association publishes each year to understand that what is expected from recent graduates like me is political activism, and I refuse to mix that with my academic interests. Again, it's not about pursuing the truth. It's not about being an honest and dedicated academic. It's about engaging in activism. This should be chilling to any person with a half-working brain. Faculty member testimony 2. I will save you my long stories of dealing and suffering career-wise from politically correct nonsense from the directions of feminism, gender ideology, trans extremism, and Islamophilia. I am trying to keep a lid on things for now, as my wife is a very promising academic but hasn't secured a position yet. I know if I started voicing my thoughts and arguments on social media, she'd be completely shut out of the academy. So this person is being cowered into silence by proxy, if you'd like. He's afraid for the prospects of his wife's career, and so he keeps quiet. Welcome to North Korea. If she does secure a tenure track spot, I'm off to the races, and you and others would see that I'm an ally to take notice of. Seriously, I'm more than happy to transition out of philosophy at this point, which has become a virtue signaling competition. Faculty testimony example 3. As a fellow professor who has been frustrated by the discourse within academia on issues such as political correctness, moral relativism, and social justice, I'd like to thank you for speaking up the way you have been from within academia. While my training and research is further removed from social issues than yours, I have nevertheless been frustrated by the conformism and groupthink I see and hear around me. I see otherwise very reasonable and capable people abandoning reason and cowing to the narrative of the regressive left on many social issues. These are all things which I would like to get involved in once the tenure decision is behind me, about 1 year to go. So this person predicates his willingness to speak his mind, share his opinions, openly share his positions only after he receives tenure, because apparently the tenure decision is not based on your academic dossier, but it is based on whether you hold the politically correct positions. As upsetting as it is, one fears expressing unpopular social ideas prior to tenure. In the meantime, please keep fighting the good fight for freedom of speech and against thought policing and orthodoxy. Faculty testimony example 4. Thanks for your excellent point on Sam Harris's podcast that terrorism is a red herring and the real issue is demography. It has recently been reported that the proportion of Muslim children in primary school in Antwerp now exceeds 50%. It is likely that the situation is the same for most major cities in Europe because only 17% of the total population of Antwerp is Muslim, and that is similar to other European cities. This is a worrying trend because other research shows that the young generation is more fundamentalist than the old generation. And here comes the request. If you decide to mention this information in your videos, I would ask you to do so without mentioning my name. I do not have tenure yet. Again, this is not North Korea. This is happening in Europe, in Canada, and the United States. One more example for you. This is a testimony of a parent of a high school student. So again, I've given you a few examples of students, of faculty, and in this case, of a parent of a student. I recently received an email from my son's school district that they're going to be screening a film called I'm Not Racist, Am I? As an in-school field trip at the end of January for high school students. I did some preliminary research on this and I'm absolutely appalled at the content of this movie. Based on the descriptions, the trailer, and additional material surrounding it, it appears to be a feature-length film pushing the agendas of white privilege, institutional racism, and white people are the problem. It scares me beyond belief that they are attempting to foist these ideas on developing minds. For reference, my son is a junior at XXX. I have included the original email as well as the PDF of the communication that was sent out. If it is something you feel you should be shared with others, I only ask that you keep identifiable information for my son or myself out for our safety. I am sure you understand. Now, to put things in perspective, when we left Lebanon and moved to Canada, I remember teasing my mother because when she would speak to me or to others on the phone, she would at times speak in code as though the mukhabarat of Syria, the sort of the internal secret service of Syria, might be listening to us. This comes from a reflex in the Middle East where you don't just openly share your ideas, even though you're speaking to a family member on the phone. You have to always be careful and be mindful of who may or may not be listening to you. Well, apparently, 40 plus years after leaving the Middle East, now high school parents of high school children are afraid to have their identity known for safety reasons. So welcome to the Middle East, but apparently we're in the 21st century in the United States. So in conclusion, freedom of speech is everything. I know that many of you have probably heard this, but every other freedom that we have starts from the bedrock of the freedom that is linked to freedom of speech. If you can't speak freely, then you can't defend all of your other freedoms. All of the apparatuses that have led us to the precipice of infinite darkness must be dismantled. No more language police, example, speech codes. No more thought policing, example, via the shackles of political correctness. No more echo chambers on universities that shun intellectual diversity. No more identity politics. Instead, promote the dignity of the individual. No more culture of offense and the ethos of perpetual victimhood. No microaggressions, no trigger warnings, no safe spaces, and no cultural appropriation. No more forbidden knowledge. There is nothing that you shouldn't be allowed to pursue scientifically and academically because the outcome might hurt someone's feelings. Truth is the ultimate quest that we seek when we are honest academics. Science, reason, and logic trump ideology and feelings. Apologies for having used trump here as a verb. I know some of you have lost sleep and can no longer have sex and have gone on a hunger strike or maybe are binge eating because Trump won. So my apologies for using this insensitive word. If you've enjoyed this video, please share it. If you appreciate my work, please consider supporting it through PayPal or through Patreon. Again, you could give as little as $1 a month, but of course you could give a lot more. Think about the tuition fees that are levied on students and think about what folks like me and others are doing in terms of speaking out against this stuff. It comes at quite a bit of personal and professional cost, and so if you could support our work in very direct ways, it would be much appreciated. Thanks everybody. Talk to you soon. Have a great week. Ciao.